Hey guys, what up? Devin here. Hope you're well. I wanted to give you the story about how I came across this practice of continual breath awareness. I get this question from time to time. Did I invent this practice? Did I discover it? Is this like a Buddhist thing or what? So I wanted to shed some light on that and just give you some context. And this might actually help you if you're trying to get into continual breath awareness because, just to kind of see how I stumbled upon it and how I was able to initially get it to basically stick and persist with it. So this was about 5 years ago. I went to, I was going to say Alaska, but Hawaii to do a backpacking trip along with some meditation books. And my goal was just to read these books and really and just meditate. Because, at this point I've been meditating consistently for a few years, but I didn't really feel like I was getting much benefit from it other than when I was actually meditating. I think it's a fairly recent phenomenon, but people tend to be selling meditation pretty hard and all the benefits, like on different podcasts and websites, and famous people are always talking about these great benefits of meditation. And I kind of bought into this story. And so I was doing it, but I didn't really feel like in my regular life, aside from when I was meditating, I really got many benefits at all. So my plan was to just really do it by the book and kind of take it to the extreme on this trip just to see what those benefits really felt like. So I got a cheap ticket to Hawaii. There's this hiking trail on the north coast of Kauai, which I did. So you basically hike in 11 miles, and then there's this really secluded beach, this really long beach with basically 2 miles of valley behind it that you can explore. It's really an amazing place. Pretty much the coolest place I've ever been, actually. And I camped out there. I found a cool place for my tent, and I read and I meditated. And at one point I was reading about walking meditation. So, given that I was exploring, sort of behind this beach in this verdant, amazing valley, I thought, okay, every time I walk, I'm just going to be on my breath. That'll kind of be one of my cues to pay attention to the sensations of breathing. So after a while, I decided to, do it the entire time, not just when I was walking, but literally every waking moment during the day. It was a great environment for that because there were very few distractions. There were no cell phone reception. I didn't have my laptop. There were people, but once I started doing this, I kind of shied away from people a little bit because I was pretty serious about this. Every time I would hang out with people, every time I would even make eye contact with people, even if I just crossed them on the path or whatever, my awareness instantly went away from my breath. But I found that, I could bring it back, and, as the days went by, it started to stick. And I started to realize that this could actually be a viable way of life. Just putting your awareness on your breath, making that your default state. And for me, it was kind of a crazy realization because it was basically like the most extreme form of meditation you could do, basically doing it literally all the time while still maintaining a regular lifestyle. So for me, that was really appealing. So that was kind of my motivation to start. It was like, wow, I wonder if that's possible to just be on your breath at every single waking moment. So it was very exciting for me. And I remember the day it really cemented was actually the day that I walked out, walked off the beach. I took the 11-mile hike back to the trailhead. And I remember, I had very good consistency that day. It was almost every single moment. And when I got to the trailhead, something kind of weird happened. So I didn't have a ride from the trailhead to the town where I was staying. So I had the number of a taxi, but the problem was it was super far. It was like 40 miles, and I think it would have cost like $120 or something. So I didn't really want to spend that. And so I just decided to hitchhike, which I've never done before. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but at the time, I would not have really felt comfortable doing that. Just the whole thing would have been uncomfortable, sticking your thumb out by the side of the road, having people pass you by, having people think you're like an idiot or a homeless guy, which I did look like, by the way, because, I've been camping for 5 or 6 days. So, but when I was on the breath, I didn't really have any anxiety about that at all. So I just was kind of walking there. I could kind of feel it, but I was sort of on a different level from it. So I just kind of, was walking down the road with my thumb out, and someone pulled over, and it was this family. It was a minivan. They had like one free seat, and I got in, and they were talking to me and trying to feel me out to see if I was like crazy or whatever. and yeah, it was actually really cool because I was completely centered and I had no anxiety. I was just like, wow, this is super chill. And at that point, I was really excited. I thought, wow, this is going to be great. I'm going to continue this in my normal life. So yeah, so I went to a hostel that night and I checked in, and hostels are kind of chaotic and you get a wide variety of people there, and it tends to be a bit of a party scene. And I was just talking with people, and I was springing back to my breath every time I would fall off, and it felt really, really good. So yeah, it was that last day, hiking to the trailhead and then going into town, when I decided to kind of carry this practice with me back home into my regular life and see if it could really be sustained sort of in the real world, quote unquote. And when I went back home, I remember actually being on the airplane and talking with the lady next to me, like an older lady who was just, we're having a friendly stop and chat. And I just remember at that moment, like, it really struck me how amazing this practice was, because, the sun was coming in the window. I remember just like seeing everything in HD, just like looking at her face and seeing like all the lines on her face, and everything was just so clear. And I was so in the present moment. I remember thinking, wow, she probably has no idea what state I'm in right now. And I was just so happy, and just like, it wasn't really happiness. Happiness is kind of a weird word, I realize, but it was a sense of complete freedom, which was incredible. So I went back home, and the first thing I noticed was that while I was on the breath, there was no pushback from me. There was like, I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't want to get into arguments or be like this rigid structure for other people to interact with in the ways that they were used to. That might not really have made sense. I can try to articulate that better in future videos. But I guess I kind of realized that before, I had been shackled by these habits of interaction that I'd had with various people in my life. And that being on the breath freed me from those shackles, so to speak. So I could be free to respond however I wanted, to any sort of provocation. Provocation is a strong word, but I just felt completely free. It was really powerful, and I'll articulate that better in future videos or whatever, but it was a really great feeling and really inspired me to really stick with the practice. So I did. I stuck with it for about 5 weeks after I came back. I was extremely centered and on the breath, literally from the moment I woke up, like just laying in bed, kind of coming into consciousness, and then being like, oh, on the breath. Just the weirdest thing, because I haven't been doing continual breath awareness recently in the last couple of months. So it's kind of weird to imagine, especially if you've never done it. And even if you have, and you've taken a break or whatever, just like the thought that you can be on your breath literally for every waking moment is pretty crazy. But you can, and without, a huge amount of effort or whatever. And if anyone can do it, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I'm not, the most centered guy naturally or whatever. Yes, I mean, that's basically how I came across the practice. I didn't, I'm not the first person to ever do this or anything. Other people, I'm sure, have done it. And people have contacted me saying that they've, discovered it independently. But, I guess one thing I want to add is that when I came back, I was so excited about this practice, I wanted to read more about it. So I Googled it, extensively, typing in pretty much every combination of keywords that I could, that I thought might, reveal some more information about this practice, which I was sure, people were writing about because it was just such a tremendous thing. I searched for it in Google and couldn't uncover anything, except for one website, actually, which if you type in continual breath awareness should be the first result. I should post that in. Maybe I'll post that down below. But so there was just that one website, and I thought, wow, people should really write about that, write about this practice, that is. So at that point, I kind of resolved to write about it, but then I fell off my breath and wasn't doing the practice for a while, and then really came back to it a few years later, which is when I started this channel. And that's when I, was re-inspired to sort of spread the word about this practice. So that's kind of the short story. Hopefully it wasn't too rambling and didn't go into many tangents or whatever. But I'll elaborate on this in future videos, especially the part about falling off your breath and coming back to it, which I think is really important. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, I'm going to be making some more videos soon, so stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.